recently I did a video talking about Vinegar Syndrome and Scream Factory and whether they peaked, and why I thought for me that they had before a lot of people that are coming in new probably think just the opposite, or that I got to be crazy to even consider that. I've gotten a lot of responses, and I thought I'd go over some of the early releases that definitely went into my reasoning and thoughts behind that. Here behind me is a significant portion of my, well, you can't see them all, but my Scream Factory collection, and it's kind of big. I got a kind of large Scream Factory collection. I don't have everything, but I got a lot of the stuff that I do want, and I wanted to show some of the early stuff that really kind of stood out for me. Consider this kind of like a bonus addendum to the video that I did before, and they did like put out some really kind of cool releases and some things that stand out and that I'm glad that I have in my collection. I got a lot of comments about like Scream Factory doing more of the kind of the mainstream films and films that are more like kind of studio straightforward films, as opposed to when I talk about Vinegar Syndrome, it does kind of did a lot of the fringe stuff, a lot of stuff that we didn't expect to come out. More recent examples of that would probably be things like Iced, and in Vinegar Syndrome kind of going into more of the Scream Factory studio type of stuff. We've seen stuff coming out like Death Wish 2 and Showgirls, and of course the much anticipated release that they did for Looking for Mr. Goodbar. But for right now, we're looking at the Scream Factory section of this. So let's do that right now. There are some great releases, and I think one of the real big box set releases, and it's still one of my absolute favorites, is this one right here. The Halloween box set that Scream Factory put out was something that people thought couldn't be done. And it is one of my favorite sets. I go back to it over and over again. I have the 4K editions of pretty much all these films except for part 3. Not because I don't like part 3, just because I haven't come across it in my journeys yet. But I still go to this set more than I do the 4K editions. It's just it's easy and on hand. I love the cases. I love the artwork that are used. I would have liked them to include, I'm not a massive fan of the Rob Zombie films, but I would like to have seen the theatrical cuts as opposed to the director's cuts of the Rob Zombie films, especially part 1, because the director's cut of part 1 for Rob Zombie's Halloween is pretty much ass compared to the sequel, to the cut for the original. Also, we got to give a quick shout out to one of the early big editions, and one that got my channel a lot of views actually. I was never going to buy this. I was super upset about it. Nightbreed. So I'm a massive fan of Clive Barker. I've read all the books. I've watched all the films, and I really like Nightbreed. It's one of my favorite films, and I do love the fact that this includes both the director's cut and the theatrical cut. Now, initially, if you bought this, the regular edition of this one, you got the director's cut. The theatrical cut you could buy, but you had to go through one of our archives to get a release set. And I don't know if they had the Blu-ray and out at that time, or they were just putting it out. But this was a nice kind of a hard box case with some really cool additions here. And I was really like super against this initially because the price was pretty pricey at the time. Not so much so now when you consider the way things are priced now, but back then this was a bit of a pricing endeavor. I got myself, and I got an extra copy of this one too, which my daughter has. Now, prior to the hard boxes, they had put out a lot of these here kind of editions that I really did like, and they put out the Anvil Horror Trilogy. It's a regular box, but it does include Anvil 3 in 3D, the way that you should see it, because Anvil 3 is like, it's a fun film, but it's not the level of 1 or 2. 2 is my favorite of these 3 films, and I probably do like the Curse collection a bit more than these. Sacrilege right there, but I do enjoy these here. And around that time, they put out things like the It's Alive trilogy as well. I'm a massive Larry Cohen fan, rest in peace. And having these films here, all 3 of them, I really do love All End of Alive. It's a really, really cool one, and people underrate it a lot. Some of the early stuff that they put out were the Blue Banner releases, And when you look at the stuff that came out on Blue Banner, you're looking at stuff along the lines of like Assault on Precinct 13. You've got movies like Body Bags and Cat People. You've got like Class of 1984, which is one that I love. Day of the Dead is a Blue Banner release. You also get stuff along the lines like I showed before of the Halloween 2, but you get releases like the mentioned They Live with the boy sticker on it, and a bunch of other really good releases. My release of the year that came out was Dolls, and this went up against like box sets. I just absolutely adore this release. I love the cover, I love this film, I love all the extras and everything that went with it. I'm a big fan too of the AHA song Take On Me, and of course the girl from Take On Me is in this in the video. She's one of the actresses in this film. Again, we're looking at the early years. Aside from Halloween 2, they put out the absolutely incredible werewolf film Ginger Snaps. We got movies along the lines of Motel Hell, which I absolutely adore. Mad Max, which has always been a favorite of mine. Mad Max is my favorite of the trilogy. I know a lot of people love Road Warrior best, but I've always enjoyed Mad Max most. You got Night of the Comets. Prince of Darkness here, and of course Night of the Demons. Again, another fantastic film. Pumpkinhead was released with collector's edition, and Pumpkinhead 2, for people that like that. I actually do like Pumpkinhead 2. Was released at the same time. And the now, I think, I'm going to print Sleepaway Camp trilogy were released, and of course I have all of these because I'm a massive fan of Sleepaway Camp. I know you're going to say there's Return to Sleepaway Camp and there's the unfinished but put out Sleepaway Camp 4, but let's be honest, this is their trilogy, and if you ever release Return to Sleepaway Camp, I'll have to pick it up even though it's not a very good film. Also along those lines, we got some other great films. The Fog was put out on the Blue Banners. The Burning, one of my favorite like all-time slashers, and Terror Train, another favorite of mine, which I showed in the previous video. There have been like a ton of like releases that came out around that time. Those were some of the collector stuff that came out, and that's the early days of Scream Factory. And we're still in like, that's just the Blue Banner era. So there's still a whole bunch more before it gets to that spot where they start to kind of recycle a bit more. But let me know what you think of that era of Scream Factory. If it's something that intrigues you, something that you're interested in finding out more about, and comment in the comment section down below if you watched and liked the last video, and if you want to see more stuff like that, and if you want to see more stuff like this, where it's kind of a more micro video where we can look at and do a follow-up on conversations that I've had previously. So there you go. That's some of, but not all, of my Scream Factory releases, but that's a lot of the Blue Banner stuff, a lot of the early releases, and a quick, I'd say, give a shout out to some of their early stuff that they did along the lines of like Death Valley and releases like that. A film that doesn't fall into the like mainstream studio category that a lot of people would say, but it's definitely a cool little release that nowadays, if somebody looked at Death Valley and said this came out for the first time, people would expect this to be a Vinegar Syndrome and not a Scream Factory release, just because it's so kind of like different and niche there. It's got like the kid from A Christmas Story. We got like Paul Matt, who got a ton of movies, but it's like along the lines of things like Deep Red. Is it Deep Red? And Puppet Master. I know Puppet Master for sure. But great titles. Stephen Hattie is in that one as well. So there you go. That is the early era of Scream Factory. Do you think that the early era is better than the latter era of Scream Factory, what's going on right now? Let me know again in the comment section down below. Give it a like, sub if you haven't, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching this here add-on extra video for the Couch Cinema.
Oh God. Oh. Subscription sloth here. Just want to remind you that I know in the summertime especially it can be super warm and lazy. But if you're liking this video, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. And if you want to go that step further and join the Patreon, there's a link for that down below. You can super sticker, super chat, or donate. But above all, just lie back and enjoy the video, because that's what I'm going to do.